Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to yet another video. For those of you who are new here, hello, my name is Nicole, and I like to come on here once a week to share messages of guidance, messages that have been channeled through from higher realms, and just give people a bit of different ways of thinking and looking at the world, especially in regards to everything that is going on at this moment. So I was unfortunately not able to come on last week as I was feeling a little bit down, was struggling with ascension symptoms. And I think many of you might have been feeling somewhat overwhelmed with this lunar eclipse that took place at the beginning of this week. And so I just want to highlight that these videos that I do are timeless. And so anytime you stumble across this video, it will be relevant for you, as I have set the intention for these videos to reach the people who really need the messages most, and especially for people who are on their journey of spiritual awakening and ascension. Now, again, what do these things mean? Everyone can interpret them in whatever way they want. So I do want to highlight here that if you are someone who is easily triggered, I just want to let you know that this video is probably going to be quite triggering for a lot of people out there. And so I just have to say as it is, I am certainly not for everyone. And the messages that I share through, many people might not agree with them, and that's absolutely fine. I'm really not trying to convince anyone of anything. At the end of the day, I'm simply channeling messages that I have received through meditation, through journaling, through spiritual connection with the higher and lower realms, also as I channel both from the higher realms as well as the lower realms. And so today I will be channeling more so from the lower realms and just highlighting to people things that they cannot see. Because I have said in previous videos that, we are literally living through what is called the Book of Revelations. And again, I want to highlight that I am not at all a religious person. I am a deeply spiritual person, and I am open to many, many things. I do not sort of stick or believe in any one religion, because in all honesty, a lot of these organized religions are complete nonsense and are a way of brainwashing us. And so I am going to get more deeply into these topics today, because really the world is upside down, and I really wanted to come on here to share messages of truth and to share messages that will trigger people. And the reason that I choose to trigger people is because when we trigger people, whenever you get triggered by anything that I am saying, this is simply an indication that there is something that you are seriously attached to that is no longer serving you. Because the point of what is happening now at this time is that we are all being asked to let go of the attachments that we have. And it is about just being open. We're all needing to just be an open book. And this is the thing, most of us today have been seriously brainwashed into believing certain things. But before I go more deeply into the video, I just want to highlight that people who are attached so deeply to anything is a problem, because we shouldn't be attached to anything, because really every single thing that we have been taught is a lie. And this is just the matrix system in which we live that serves to manipulate and corrupt the way human beings look at the world. Because if we are moving through the world without the correct knowledge, we have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea where we're going. We have no idea what is going on. And as much as there might seem like there is a lot of chaos that is happening at this time, I can assure you that all this chaos that is happening right now is serving to take us somewhere better, is serving to take us to the higher realms, is serving to take us into the next phase of human evolution. Because really, when I look at, I'm in my sort of mid-30s, and when I look back to, obviously I'm recording this video here in Kenya, and when I look back to the state of Kenya just even 15 to 20 years ago, I feel like we've been moving backwards. And people will say, oh, the world has never been more peaceful, there are less people dying, there are less people who are sick. And well, I certainly beg to differ, because it really depends on where you're getting your information. It really depends on who is telling you this information, because I can tell you whoever's telling you this information is blatantly lying to your face. And if you are getting a lot of your information through mainstream media and mainstream education and mainstream government, then that is the problem, because all of these people are lying blatantly to all of humanity. You know, when you just think about the fact that the Vatican, underneath the Vatican, that is holding and hiding, you know, miles and miles and miles of books that have been hidden away from public view, you have to question, why are these things being hidden? Why is there so much censoring going on social media, on the internet? You know, websites that I have been following for years, since around 2020, a lot of these websites, a lot of these, you know, YouTube channels have disappeared. And you have to question, why are all of these things happening? Because if you think back to Germany during World War II and everything that was happening at that time, people question, how on earth did they get away with all the things that they did? And it was because of psychological manipulation. You know, there are many sources that you can go and look into that say that, you know, especially when we look at, for example, the Cold War, you know, we have to look at history, because if we don't look at history, history has a tendency to repeat itself. And that is exactly what is happening. When we think back to what was happening during the Cold War, for example, you know, maybe there wasn't fighting on the front lines and on the battlefields as it was in, you know, World War One and World War Two. But really, why World War Two was all the things that happened in World War II was that there was a lot of psychological manipulation. And, you know, that German party at that time was doing a lot of research into brainwashing and mind control and all of these things. And even, you know, if one doesn't even need to go far to find this information. People still want to call and say, oh, these are all conspiracies, all of this is being made up. But how is it that so many people get, you know, their lives are ended because they are talking about information? You know, when you think about the number of people that have whose lives have been ended since that 2020 time, you know, people who are educated, people who are smart, people who are very knowledgeable and advanced in their field, suddenly they're all ending up. And why is that? Well, because they're talking about things that certain people don't want them to be talking about. Just like me, you know, all my videos get seriously shadow banned, and they're not being shown because obviously I'm touching on subjects that the powers that are falling, because I don't want to call them the powers that be, because this is exactly why we are going through this. You know, they talk about different timelines that were in existence. There was either a timeline where everything was going to go to shit and the world was going to end, or there was a timeline where positive things were going to come up. And we are most certainly on the timeline where things are going in an upward trajectory, and it might not seem like it. But if you think back to everything that has been happening in the world, how many people can look at the world and say, oh, I love this world. This world is such a great place. Unless you are someone who thrives off darkness and thrives off of, you know, fucking people over, then great. Yes, this world certainly works for you. But I don't believe that we are in the majority. And really, the main reason why religion exists is to brainwash the masses, because when you try and have a conversation with anybody who is deeply religious, you might as well be talking to a wall, or you probably have a deeper conversation with a dog, because, you know, people are seriously brainwashed, and people don't want to think about it that way, because where do we get a lot of our information? Through movies. And as I've said in some of my previous videos, and you can go back and watch them, but, you know, places like Hollywood are simply there to manipulate us to look at the world through a very specific lens. But just because we see things on TV doesn't mean that it's the reality. What if I were to tell you that everything that we have been taught since our education, and this goes way, way back, everything that we as the human population have been educated about has served for us to look at the world through a very specific lens. And this lens does not serve the evolution of humanity, because if we look back over, you know, the past 20 years, okay, yeah, people can say the world is evolving because we have things like AI. But, you know, since the rise and the existence of the internet, has humanity really developed? I mean, yeah, people can say, oh, it's easier to buy things and it's easier to book things online, but okay, yeah, maybe that has made life more convenient, but has it improved the circumstances and the life of human beings, maybe in some aspects, but not really. You know, the Western world wants to say, oh, look at the poor, starving, dying people of Africa. They're so unhappy. We must come and save them. And I'm sorry, this is one of the biggest lies ever. First of all, charity does not work. It does not work at all. It is simply a model to perpetuate victimhood and make people believe that they don't have what it takes to get themselves out of the shit. When you know that someone is going to come and save you, then you basically are giving your power away, basically stating, I don't have to do anything because someone else is going to come and do this for me. And this is why, you know, Africa is where it is today, because all, you know, the the charity world, for lack of a better word, is thriving off of the fact of the poor African people. You know, when I go to African villages in the buttfuck middle of nowhere, do these people really look unhappy? No. If you're coming from a Western mindset where you think that unless you don't have the latest car or the latest phone or the latest computer or the latest clothes, then you're not going to be happy. But how many millionaires are out there that have all of these things, and are they really happy? You know, people can say money can't buy happiness, and some people will say, well, money does buy happiness. Well, I beg to differ. Money can make you feel less in survival mode. But again, money is literally just a piece of paper. And it's interesting to see the things that people will do for this piece of paper. People have forgotten that money is not about the physical, tangible bill. You know, we're literally fighting over paper. Like, how fucking ridiculous can that get? The fact that people will kill for money, that people will kill for a piece of paper. Like, what utter nonsense is that? And it's not about the money itself. You know, when you look at all these billionaires in the world, and I'm not saying that there aren't great billionaires, there are amazing billionaires and amazing millionaires out there. But then I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking specifically of the people who govern our world, which I will say again are not necessarily human, because many people are totally possessed by parasitic energies. And again, all these, you know, towers that were erected during those 2020 times, you know, people saw that when people were putting on their Bluetooth near people who had gotten this thing, well, you know, there were Wi-Fi signals popping up when they were in the middle of nowhere, or they would go into graveyards where there were freshly, you know, buried people, and they would put on their Bluetooth, and Bluetooth signals would be popping up. Now, you can go and do your own research that there is legislation that recently passed in America that was saying that those people who got this thing, because we have to remember that that thing is actually altering your DNA, just like why are we eating GMO foods? All these GMO foods are literally affecting our DNA. And for those people who got this thing, and knowing full well that this RNA, whatever thing, was literally manipulating and altering your DNA, making you essentially a genetically modified organism. And so there is legislation that passed that was saying that people who got that thing, well, human rights no longer applied to them because they were no longer human. Why do you think all this transgender and transhumanism situation is being pushed on us? It is because, remember, human beings, we are part man or woman, we are part animal and part divine. And this is, you know, in religion, so let's just use Christianity here because it is, you know, sort of the religion that I'm most familiar with. When they talk about, you know, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, or whatever it is, this is also the tripart being: mind, body, and spirit, mind, body, and soul. You know, everything exists on many different layers. Things are not as simple as they are, because we have to remember we are soul beings having a physical human experience. But what is animating this physical vessel is not this physical vessel. What is animating this physical vessel is something that is non-tangible. And human beings, you know, doctors will say, oh, yeah, it's the brain. No, it's the consciousness. But the consciousness is not something that is tangible. And when you look at all these, you know, Silicon Valley millionaires who are trying to cheat death, you know, it's just so funny that people are wanting to use all kinds of gadgets and technology to cheat death, when really, if you just change your diet and minimize your stress and spend more time living in nature and live a more wholesome life, you will cheat death. But it's all about the way it depends on our mindset, it depends on what we're ingesting and what we're putting in our bodies. But all these genetically modified foods that we're consuming, all this genetically modified information that we are consuming is what is affecting our lifespans. You know, I've seen you go in the villages in any country in Africa and you see people who are in their hundreds who are absolutely fine, still just getting on with life and living happily and fine because they're not eating all kinds of rubbish. But now when you see that, you know, well, this new world order is well and truly underway, especially when you see everything that is going on in Kenya and the way they are going so hard for farmers and trying to regulate. You know, how can you say that you're not even allowed to grow your own vegetables in your garden? Like, can you really tell me that we are free? Can you really tell me that there isn't something seriously wrong going on here, when the fact that most African people have their own shambas or their own small kitchen gardens, and suddenly they're being told you have to pay to just grow a few beans to feed your family? Like, this is modern day slavery. For people who want to think that we are moving towards great times, well, we are, but you know, it is always darkest before the dawn. And we all need to wake the fuck up, because at the end of the day, it is so easy for people to say, oh, yeah, but like life is hard and I was forced to do this and I was forced to do that. I'm sorry, but that's just fucking bullshit. Because we always have a choice to do the right thing. And that is why many people who are walking around on this planet are either NPCs, essentially non-playable characters, essentially meaning people who do not have a soul. And you might think that I'm batshit crazy for saying these things, and that's totally okay. You know, if you're not resonating with this video, please feel free to leave. You really don't have to be here. These videos are for people who really want the truth of what is going on at this time. And I can tell you right now that there are many people on this planet that do not have souls. Cloning is a very real thing. See, I think it was like back in the 90s, I think it was in like 95 or 96, we were told openly, blatantly, oh yeah, Dolly the sheep was cloned. If they had that technology back then, do you really think that that technology hasn't improved? Look at all the movies. Again, remember, Hollywood, you know, serves to brainwash and manipulate people so that they believe things in a very specific way. And this is why when people come out and say things that are happening in real life, people are like, no, that only happens in the movies. Why do you think that the movies are made to look so close to reality, so that when people are sharing stories of things that they have actually happened to them, people are giving first-hand accounts, and people are like, oh, well, if you don't have video knowledge, if you don't have video proof, that didn't happen. Well, just because you can't see me breathing doesn't mean that I'm not breathing. Just because you can't see the wind on a video, okay, yeah, you'll say, yeah, well, you can see it in the trees. Well, what if there are no trees around? What if there are no plants around to see the wind moving? Does it mean that the wind is not happening? If someone is telling you blatantly something happened to them and you're just like, no, I don't believe that. That could only happen in the movies. Well, the movies serve to program us. But the movies also serve to tell us a lot about what is happening, because, well, they can't just come out and blatantly tell us, or it would be absolute chaos and pandemonium. So they drop little hints in the movies. And if you have the eyes to see, even in books, even in music videos, they are telling us things all the time. But people will say, oh no, that's just a movie. Oh no, it's just entertainment. Oh no, that's just art. Okay, if that's what you want to believe, then that's great. But you, my friend, will be left behind. You, my friend, are being given the opportunity to take your power back and get your life in control. But if you want to stand back and think that, you know, Jesus is going to come and save you, Allah is going to come and save you, some magical being is going to fly down from the sky and save you, there is something very wrong with you. And it's not your fault, because you have been manipulated. You have been brainwashed from even when you were in the womb, because this has been encoded into our DNA, and we are being given the opportunity to take our power back and to fend for ourselves. Because it's so easy to say, you know, and I'm not saying that evil and darkness doesn't exist, but the evil and the darkness that exists out there is because of what we, the human beings, are doing. There is nothing that is forcing us to do these things, but unfortunately there are people who have darkness inside of them. And this is what Sigmund Freud talked about, that all these repressed parts of ourselves, if you repress them, eventually they're going to, and if you have no control over them, eventually they're going to start to control you. And this is what we are seeing happening in the world all around us, is that as human beings, our three-part nature, man, animal, and divine, the animal parts of human beings is what has taken over. And I'm sure many of you have heard the saying, as above, so below, as within, so without. Well, everything that is manifesting in this physical realm is a manifestation of what we, the human beings, are carrying inside of us. Because again, we are the ones who allow these things to happen, and we all play a part. We are the ones who sit by and allow the governments to take away our freedom. Because the fact that during those 2020 times, this was a test to see how docile the entire human population could be, because I think by now we've all understood that it was a glorified flu. And people who still want to go around and think that it was some deadly virus, well, I'm sorry, then you're fucking stupid. Because even doctors, even the most renowned and educated doctors, came out to say these exact same things. And again, people would say, follow the science, follow the science. I am not a scientist. I never went to medical school or studied anything of the sort, but I know that vaccines take years and years and years to develop. And people will say, oh yeah, but because of the new technology that we have. And remember that supposed virus was constantly mutating. We had, I don't know, Delta, and I don't even know the different names of all the different variants that came out at that time. But suddenly a vaccine was found. Suddenly a vaccine was found for a virus that was still mutating, that the doctors couldn't really still understand how this virus was mutating and where it came from or whatever the fuck. And people were just like, people behaved very badly during that time. You know, the fact that just absolute nonsense, because I thought, you know, when you take a vaccine, this is supposed to protect you against getting a virus, right? So why is it that those people who chose not to get it, people were like, oh, you're going to kill all of us? But then does that not totally defy the purpose of that thing, which is supposed to protect you? So if I get sick, but you have been inoculated, then what does it matter if I don't? Because that inoculation is supposed to protect you from me or others. It just makes absolutely no sense. But you see, the reason why so many people bought into it is, you know, unfortunately, most people are sheep. And what do sheep do? Sheep, even if they don't understand anything, they just, you know, if one sheep decides to go in that direction, well, all the sheep will follow, not questioning, ooh, why is that sheep going in that direction? And so this is what happened when you are in a constant state of fear. When you are in a constant state of survival, you will do anything. You will do whatever anyone else does, because now what happens is you become part of that herd mentality. And that is what is happening today, is people no longer seem to know how to think for themselves. And when people post things or say things that go against this herd narrative, then people are cancelled. So what, now we're not even allowed to question? Apparently, if we question things, we're conspiracy theorists. Isn't that a bit strange to think that, we're told that as educated people we must question? And isn't it that when we go to university we're told, you have to look for facts? But just because someone has written something in an article somewhere, that doesn't make it a fact. And then, people say, oh, but you know, you're citing from sources of people who are crazy. But who decides if you are crazy? If something has happened in reality and one person thinks that you're crazy, it doesn't make it the reality. But this is the problem, that because everyone is being so triggered, because everyone's nervous system is stuck in fight or flight. And there has been plenty of studies to show that essentially people who, so there were studies that were shown, so for example during 9/11, there were studies that were, or even during the Boston Marathon, terrorist attack that happened, there were studies that showed that people who were actually at these events when they took place recovered far quicker and better than people who were not there but who saw images of these things on TV. And so mainstream media and the news serves to literally trigger your nervous system and get you into fight or flight. And essentially when we see, because remember, everything that we see is registered into our brain, even the things that you don't think you see, because our eyes are registering thousands of bits of information per millisecond. You don't even realize how much information you are taking in, because remember, we have our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. And if your conscious mind is very, very closed and not open, your subconscious mind is receiving that information whether your conscious mind is aware of it or not. And so you might just think you're seeing images. And so even when we think of on movies, just all the blood and the violence and the just horrificness that we're being showed, why is it that movies are so violent? And why is it that, like, in all these action movies, when suddenly all the action is happening, there's so much noise, that the music suddenly gets very loud? And whether you're aware of it or not, this is actually triggering your fight or flight response, basically increasing the amount of stress hormones that then starts to affect your adrenal glands and starts to affect your lymphatic system. And remember, your lymphatic system is essentially the system that gets rid of the waste of your cells. It's like, if any of you have been constipated out there, how much does your stomach hurt when you haven't been able to go to the toilet for multiple days? It fucking hurts. Now, imagine if you were not allowed to go to the toilet for like months and years. And that is essentially what is happening with our lymphatic system. All of us who are in this constant state of stress, in this constant state of survival, in this constant state of fight, flight, freeze, where you literally cannot think properly, you cannot see properly, your body is not functioning properly, your brain is not functioning properly, your heart is not functioning properly, none of your systems are functioning properly when you are stuck in that fight, flight, freeze response. And if your lymphatic system, and this is why everyone is just exhausted and so many people are struggling with autoimmune disease, it is because their lymphatic systems are not being drained. The waste of their cells are not being drained, essentially meaning that your cells cannot continue to renew and replenish, something that the body does naturally. And so this is essentially what is being triggered when you watch the news. All the colors, the sounds that they use, the way the words that are used, the sounds of their voices, all of it together is essentially hypnotizing you into a semi-state of trance and activating your fight, flight, freeze response, and basically creating a lot of stress in your mind, body, and emotions. And so, as I said, scientific research has been done to prove that one of the main reasons for heart disease is, well, eating a lot of shit processed foods is one of them, but also watching the news and watching very disturbing, violent and graphic images. And people will say, oh yeah, but it's not that violent, it's not that graphic. I'm sorry, just because you've been watching it for 10, 20, 30 years you've become totally desensitized that you're not even aware that what you're watching is highly violent. And as a result of constantly watching highly violent content, you start to begin to think and feel it is okay to be highly violent. It is okay to see people essentially dying and be like, oh, well, it's not happening to me, so it doesn't really matter. And all of this is serving to make people complacent and to make people extremely docile, so people can't stand up and fight for themselves. And so, our belief systems our beliefs are so powerful, but our belief systems also are what serve to program us and to manipulate us. Because just as we have seen again in science, people want to follow the science, fine. The placebo effect. The placebo effect, which till today scientists cannot explain, essentially proves that just believing something can make it real. So people who go through these clinical trials and they're given sugar pills and told that they're being given some brand new medication that is going to clear them of their cancer or clear them of whatever issues that they are being faced with, that person really, 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 with every single aspect of themselves, believes that they are being healed, and then they just heal, even though all they were being given was a sugar pill. That is how powerful your beliefs are. And so all this nonsensical mainstream religion just serves to brainwash people so that they believe that some invisible thing is going to come down and save them. My friends, you are totally giving your power away. And now I'm not saying that one shouldn't have faith, because even in that placebo effect, people have, these people who get healed by believing that they're taking some medication when yet they're only taking a sugar pill. It is because they have faith. They have faith in that medicine. They have faith in the doctors. They have faith in the medical system. And maybe it's not even the doctors, it's not even the medical system, but it is their faith that is healing them. And so right now, everything that is happening is building our faith. And it doesn't really matter what you have faith in. You might have an imaginary friend and say, I have faith that this imaginary friend is going to save me. As long as you have faith, because faith means that with every single ounce of your being, you believe that something is going to be okay, that you are going to be healed, that you are going to find a solution. Having faith in yourself to get yourself out of sticky situations. Having faith that your family will help you. Having faith that the Most High will help you. Having faith that the ancestral spirits will help you. Having faith in whatever the fuck it is that you want to have faith in, but it is about having faith. And so, yes, we can't sit around thinking that by sitting on our asses and doing absolutely nothing to help ourselves along, to improve our situations, to improve ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, if we are not doing anything, there is nothing that is coming here to save you. You, my friend, have to take charge of your life, and you have to stand up and you have to say, I will no longer be a sheep. I will go out there and not just take what is given to me at face value, but I will go and I will look underneath the surface, because there is always something underneath the surface. Remember, not everything that we are shown is shown to us at face value. This is why this is a season where discernment is extremely important, because not everything is as it seems. For those of us who are here in Kenya, and I think at this point every single person in the world knows who Ruto is, because when he came along and he put himself on a pedestal, knowing that Kenyans were very religious people, basically another word for saying easily manipulated if you use the right words. He pretended to be a man of God. He pretended to be a man of the church. And now look at him. And even when people were told, people are so quick to forget the fact that this man was tried for crimes against humanity, for ending the lives of many people, women and children, in a church. And yet people went to elect him thinking, oh, because he is my tribesman, He's obviously going to come and save me. I'm sorry, people, you need to wake up. Nothing that the governments do are here to help us. Government simply is another form of control. Again, someone telling you what you can and cannot put into your body, someone telling you what you can and cannot do because apparently you're too stupid to figure out, you're not intelligent enough to be able to make decisions for yourself. You know, we're lied to when being told that there are not enough resources on this planet. I'm sorry, there was research that was done to show that essentially if everyone on this planet was standing side to side, all huddled up together, basically the entire human population could fit into the state of Texas. Hello, the world is massive. Are you really going to tell me that there isn't enough space for everybody? When just here in Kenya, you know, sometimes even if we're just driving out in the bush sometimes, you can drive for hours and see nobody. And you're really going to tell me that there isn't enough space? Yeah, there isn't enough space in the cities, because when you see the size of the cities in comparison to the size of the world and everyone trying to huddle up and live in these cities, of course there isn't enough fucking space. I mean, hello? It's time for you to take control of your life. Stop giving your power away. You know, people who say, oh, the devil made me do it. No, my friend. People who kill others and say, oh, the devil entered me. I'm sorry. I just have to laugh at you because no one came and put a knife in your hand or a gun in your hand and said, kill that person. And maybe somebody did, but you still had a choice. Like, you still had a choice. But if you chose to be a fucking weakling, if you chose to be a victim and say, oh, I had no choice, the devil made me do it, there's something wrong with you. And really what is happening at this time right now is that we are going through a time of serious, serious karma. And karma is simply just the law of cause and effect. And if you have done shitty things will happen to you. If you have done good things will come to you. But you see, what's happened is that the world has been totally imbalanced because witchcraft and black magic have been used and are being used at the highest levels. How is it that people can see things happening right in front of them, but yet they cannot see? This is a pure indication of black magic and witchcraft. And you know, even just the way that, just the word like demonizing. How many things have been demonized? When we look at African spirituality, let us not forget that some of the most powerful empires that ever existed on this planet were on the African continent. But ever since the Bible came, ever since organized religion came, suddenly people became so backwards. And just because, you know, this whole narrative of the white Jesus that we were sold during colonial times was in order to put the white man on a pedestal. But this was, you know, when people realize that melanin is the most expensive commodity being sold on the black market today, and now you have to question, where does melanin come from? Comes from people with melanin, basically meaning that, you know, there's a reason why the African continent had to be enslaved and had to be made to think that they were lesser than because, you know, there was only a white god. And this was in order to control, for people to hate themselves so much, to fear their ancestral ways so much, that they started following a narrative that was completely against what was ingrained in them, their natural way of life. And why do you think that, you know, the African continent has been come for so much? Is because people still have freedom here, because people can still farm their own food. And as long as you can feed yourself, you are free. Because as long as you are not starving, and as long as you are eating good food, non-GMO food, your brain is still functioning, your nervous system is still functioning, your hormonal system is still functioning. You are still a human being as opposed to a genetically modified organism. And so people need to wake up, because just if you are not a farmer, just because you have not yet been impacted by the changes that are happening today, you will be impacted. And they say that evil only prevails when good men stand back and do nothing. And for someone to turn a blind eye to evil means that you become an accomplice to it. And that is what is happening right now. Many people are becoming accomplices and are allowing these things to happen. But it is time that we all stand up and we take back our power and stop giving our power away to some false God that supposedly is going to come down and save you. Hello, my friend. You are a God because we were all made in the image of God. We all have the power of God inside of us. We all have the power of the Most High. And I'm not talking about the God that people pray to in their Bibles, because I'm sorry, that God is not the same God that I pray to. And this is the thing, religion has been the biggest form of mind control and brainwashing and mass manipulation that the world has ever seen. Because as I said at the beginning, trying to have a conversation with these people, you might as well talk to a wall. There is no logic. These people are living in fantasy world. Remember again, these people who go to church and say, hey, I'm drinking of the blood and eating of the body of Jesus Christ. Hello, you're a cannibal and you find that normal? All these people who are eating dead flesh, most people don't realize that, a lot of what people are ingesting is human. Is human. You don't have to believe me. There's people who have come out to say this blatantly. If you look at the McDonald's sign is a sigil for some very evil demons. And so many people are engaging in black magic and they don't even have any fucking clue. And the reason why so many things, just that word demonize, so many things have been demonized because they want to make things look really, really scary so that people don't go and look there. They make things look so, so difficult so that people don't go and look there. Because they don't want people to know the truth. They want the things that are really scary, that are really good to look scary, and they want the things that are really scary to look good. Just like all this transgender situation that's going on. It's fucking crazy. People who are saying, what is a woman? Oh, as long as I identify as a woman. Okay, well, I identify as being a chair. If I started saying that, people would say that I was delusional. But suddenly everyone is celebrating this trans bullshit nonsense, or people thinking that implanting a chip into your brain so that now you can pay for your groceries with your hand, there's something very, very wrong here. And we are slowly, and have been slowly for tens, decades, we have been manipulated. When you look at the movies from like the 90s, these are the things that they were already showing us, trying to make people think that these were cool things so that when they came around, people would adopt them willingly and joyfully and say, oh, this is the best thing to have ever happened since sliced bread. Absolute nonsense. You need to start thinking for yourself. And the easiest way to do this is to work on healing your traumas. Work on improving yourself mentally. Work on improving yourself emotionally. Why do you think that they say, oh, people who are emotional are weak? Anyone who shows too much emotion is hysterical. Because emotions give us a lot of information. And once you start to become really, really aware of your emotional body, you will start to realize that you can feel things. When you are in contact and in touch with your emotions, your intuition will be so much stronger. And right now, intuition and spiritual knowledge and opening our first eyes is the only way that we are going to get through this. Because any single person right now who is sitting back and saying, I'm not getting involved, this does not concern me, I am telling you, your karma is coming. Because it seems that you just want to sit back and say, oh, I'm going to get through this scot-free. But we've seen with these, like, for example, these P. Diddy indictments. I haven't watched much about it, but it keeps popping up on all social medias and everyone is talking about it. Because judgment, and you can look back to some of my previous videos where I talked about judgment was coming. Those people who thought that they would never be touched, judgment is coming. And this is why things in your life might feel like nothing is working out anymore. All of these things are happening to wake you up to the realities of the wounds that are still inside of you, to the belief systems that you are still carrying, that are actually limiting you, that are not taking you in the right direction. Because some of us are going up, few of us are going up at this point, and many people are falling. People need to wake up to the reality of the world, of what is going on around them. Stop following all this nonsensical mainstream religion and start knowing yourself. Start taking your power back and start asking, what can I do myself right now to improve my life? Because there is no one, nothing other than yourself that is coming to save you. And the way that you will be saved is by getting on the right side of things. And the way that you can start getting on the right side of things is empowering yourself with knowledge and information. If you want to continue believing that this world is made of fairies and rainbows, then that is absolutely fine. But you are in for a rude awakening, because the truth is going to continue to be revealed. And right now, you don't even need to look far to find the truth. And people will say, oh, conspiracy theories, and that's fine. But you, my friend, are the one who is going to be left with your dick in your hand, wondering, oh my gosh, I was wrong. I should have listened, and it will be too late. So you need to educate yourself. You need to go and find out about the reality and the truth of the world that we live in, and stop giving your power away to things, people, imaginary things that have no intention of helping you or serving you. They are keeping you there to continue brainwashing you and keeping you subservient to the powers that are falling. And so you need to really question, what side of this war are you on? Because again, you can go and watch that video as if you were being manipulated. Are you an agent for the dark forces? And you have no idea. And the only way that you will know if you are an agent for the dark forces is if you are not dealing with your shadow aspects and your wounds. Because trauma and those parts of ourselves that we do not want to look at is the number one way that we can be manipulated and controlled into doing things that we don't want to do, because we don't realize that there are things and energies inside of us that need our attention, that need our healing. And I am saying all of these things to all of you out there with love and compassion. And I am saying these things to trigger you and awaken you and give you an opportunity to do what is needed for you to come out on top. Because remember, the universe, the Most High, wants you to succeed, wants you to be in joy, wants you to experience all that you desire. But you can't do that if you are being manipulated, because there are parts of yourselves that you do not want to look at. So I want to end here on a high note, because, I know that this has been a very triggering, difficult message for many of you out there, but all of these things are happening to elevate us to the next level of human evolution, so that we can go back to living a life of joy, so that we can go back to experiencing the beauty of what humanity is all about. But we need to be aware. So the messages we have here are: get grounded. Empaths, those of you who take on other people's feelings, who feel so much, you need to ground yourself. Spend a lot of time in nature. So get grounded. Empaths, highly sensitives, connect with nature. Right now, getting out of the cities, spending time in your own energy, spending time meditating, spending time eating wholesome foods, watching wholesome content, doing things that serve you is what you need to do at this time, because this is a scary time. This is a difficult time. But I am assuring you, for someone who has literally walked through the shadows of hell and who has been traumatized in ways that I don't even want to get into, and have experienced abuse in every single form imaginable, I am telling you that there is a way out, but you have to take your power back, as opposed to constantly giving it away and saying, poor me, the world is out to get me. All of these difficult things that we experience serve as a springboard to help you see what is not going right in your life, what needs to change, what you need to change, the decisions you need to make in order to change your life and move towards the things that you actually desire. The next card we have is Anna, grandmother of Jesus. And before I get into here further, for those of you, especially who are melanated, I want you to go and research about Simeon Toko. You know, Jesus Christ, this is really more alluding to Christ consciousness. It is about being aligned in every aspect of your being. It is about opening yourself up. And Simeon Toko, they refer to him as the Black Jesus. And he was the ones who actually got the Belgians out of the Congo. He prophesied about this 5 or 10 years before the Belgians actually left the Congo. And he performed miracles way greater than what Jesus Christ did. And so you need to go and research this man, because this shows you the power of melanin. So Anna, grandmother of Jesus, seeding the light, laying foundations, this is part of the divine plan. Yes, we must go through the darkness before the dawn strikes. And you too must go through the darkness, because those of us, whenever you are on a spiritual path of awakening, you first have to hit rock bottom, because only when you hit rock bottom do you let go and say, you know what, I leave it to the Most High. It is no longer for me to try and control. I give up. And we are all being pushed and backed into a corner so that we give up, so that the Most High, the universe, the ancestral spirits can come to our aid, because there are so many things here to help us at this time, to help us through this. But the more that we hold on tight, we hold on to all of these lies that we have been told, that we have been taught, that we have been brainwashed into believing, the less our faith can come through, because we are having faith in something that is false. We are holding onto false beliefs, false identities, false truths. And now is a time for the truth, the higher truth, to come through. But it can only come through when we let go of all the things that we are holding on so tightly that are not true, that are not serving us, and that are not allowing us to move through or move forward into the next level of our human evolution. And so I really, really hope that these messages, I'm sorry if they have been triggering, I'm sorry if they have been harsh, but I know that these truths are what many people need to hear to take the veil off of their eyes and start to see the reality of the world that we live in, and the reality of what you have been blinding yourself to. And so I send you all of my love. I'm doing this, out of divine love. And sometimes you need an adversary to push you into the next phase, because as I have said, so many people have gotten comfortable in the comfort zone, and that is not where the Most High wants you to be, because you have convinced yourself that yes, it is comfortable, but there is more for you. There is better for you. There is something far greater awaiting humanity. But we need to move through this as an individual and as a collective. And so the more you start to focus on yourself, and this does not make you selfish, you need to focus on getting yourself from point A to B, not expecting something to suddenly come down and save you. The more you take action, because remember, God helps those who help themselves. And so you first have to help yourself so that God can help you. Because God is not going to come and help you if you're sitting on your ass thinking, oh, I don't need to do anything because God is going to come and save me. No, that is not the way it works. Because remember, you too are God. God is inside of you. And when you remember, your body is the temple. And when you make the choice to make your life better, then you will be aided by the Most High. But if you just want to sit around feeling sorry for yourself, then nothing is going to change. So I send you so much love. I really hope these messages have been helpful. I ask that you please share this message with anyone who you think will benefit from receiving these messages. And if you have resonated, I would love to hear from you in the comments. I would love for you to just like the video so that it can reach the people that it needs to reach. Much love to you, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye for now.